Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Good morning to everybody. Friends of the Dayton Tolbert Show. What's up, everybody? Good morning. I always started off while we wait for some more people to join into the live. This is a Friends of the Dayton Tolbert Show exclusive, meaning anyone who's in the group is going to get access to this content before anybody. I'll share it, DaytonTolbertShow.com and, different places, iTunes, things like that, iHeartRadio, but my core base, I want to have access to the content first. So add yourselves to the Friends of the Dayton Tolbert Show on Facebook group, and that's how we do it. Today, I want to do something a little different. You see, I got my letters on, Phi Beta Sigma. I want to talk about Greek life. I want to talk about pledging. I want to talk about hazing. This is, for those of you who don't know, I've been doing this show a long time, about 20 years now. And one of my early shows 16 years ago, and the only reason I know is because it popped up in my memories on Facebook. I did a special on Greek life in America. And on that show, I talked about, what is Greek life. I found that most people really don't understand it. If you're not Greek, if you are not a member of the Divine Nine, if you have not gone through a pledging process or some type of intake process, you probably are largely unfamiliar with what we do. I mean, yeah, you see the parties, the party walks, you may see some community service, but on a large scale, I found that most non-Greeks, there exists a misconception about who we are and what we do. So like I did 16 years ago, today I just want to answer some of those questions, especially now that we're in this new climate of the tragic death of Caleb Wilson. Everyone is talking about it. It's all over the news. So I thought that this would be a good time. And it like I said, 16 years ago, yesterday, you can look it up, like literally yesterday, 16 years ago, I did a show on this very topic. And, on that show I had, it was myself, a Kappa I went to school with was a special guest. Another one of my frat brothers called in. I believe we had a Sigma Gamma Rho call in, and we had a really good conversation. The archives are up there. Check out the archives. You can Google it. iTunes should be up there. It was, like I said, it was 16 years ago, so you might have to search for it a little bit, but it was a good show. And so, like I said, let's jump into it. So, this is not going to be a show where, we focus on Phi Beta Sigma. That's not what this is about. Yes, I'm a member of my organization. However, I want to talk about the Kappas. I want to talk about the Qs. I want to talk about AKA. I want to talk about Delta. I want to talk about it from a informational standpoint, and hopefully try to answer some questions. I have some questions jotted down on my trusty laptop that I know I wanted to address. Many are about Caleb Wilson, other things. So let's jump right into it. So let's talk about first of all, let me just say this. Phi Beta Sigma, guys, and most fraternities, I'm sure will tell you, we are a non-hazing organization. All right, that we don't haze, we don't pledge. That we are. You go to the website, it tells you that straight up. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. Anything that I tell you guys today is from a general standpoint. I'm going to speak from my personal experience. But overall, as an organization, we are officially a non-hazing organization. We don't do any of that. There is no more pledging. There is no hazing. There is none of that. We don't do none of that. Okay? So we're just going to put that out there. But one of the things that I found, and like I said, most sororities and most fraternities will tell you that. So what are we here for? What has happened? Right? If we are a non-hazing organization, why is Caleb Wilson dead? Why have we seen lawsuits and why have we seen all these things happen with these people pledging these organizations that should not be happening? Well, let's talk about it. So you have, and this is for people who may be unfamiliar. Like I said, I really want to educate some people. So what we have is, when you have an organization like Phi Beta Sigma, like Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, there's typically, well, I'll speak back in the day, there were two ways you could come into the organization. You had the pledging process, where you had the brothers pledging the candidates into the organization. You know, teach them information, put them through tests and trials and tribulations with their line brothers or line sisters, and then they would cross over into the organization and then have all the rights and privileges of that organization. That was the pledging way. Often in the pledging aspect of it, you would have certain physical pieces that would often be taken too far. So that, I'm going to elaborate on that, but you also had the non-pledging way to get into an organization, and that is what you would have, where you would have candidates go through a national process. You go on the website, you call the national, intake chairman or whoever you call. You fill out some paperwork, you pay your money, your dues, and then you're in the organization. And so back in the day, when I pledged in fall '99, and so back then there was, a certain persona. There was a certain negative connotation associated with non-pledging. So if you did not actually pledge, it was viewed in a negative light. So what happened was, everybody who pledged wanted to, or everyone who wanted to be in the organization wanted to pledge, because they wanted to get the respect. So in order to get the respect, you went through the process. And because the people putting you through the process were also put through a process, so they were going to do things to you that were done to them. And the further back you go, typically the harder it was. So they all wanted to put you through what they were put through, so that you could have the same respect that they had. And then the people that you bring in will have the same respect, and so on and so forth. But what often happens is, as time evolves, people took things too far often. Now I want to say something. I want to back up a little bit. What I've found, and this is just my personal experience, is that you don't hear many non-Greeks speaking negatively about the pledging process. Have you ever noticed that? And I'm sure we have some Greeks listening. I'm sure we have a lot of Sigmas listening, Kappas listening, SG Rose, AKs, whatever the case is. You tell me what you think. But typically, the people, because a lot of people are against it, especially more so now, that in today's climate. But what I've found is, typically, people who pledged, like myself, like people who brought me in, this is a lifelong commitment, right? This is something that we did 20, 30 years ago, and we still are active today. Why? Because we love it. When we think back on our pledging process, it wasn't a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. When you hear people, you ever get around Greeks, they start talking, and we call them war stories. You get around with your line brothers and your sorors and things like that, and you speak about those experiences, those memories fondly. Like, oh yeah, we got our asses whooped. You know what I'm saying? We got wrecked that night. Oh man, we had to do this. Or you got that's what you hear, but it's not like, I would never do that again, or they were barbarians, or the process was immature, or it was this, it was that. You don't hear me, you never heard me say that. I don't hear people I'm around, I'm still active. You don't hear that. So my point is this: when the process, as it was designed to be, is done properly, it is going to make you stronger. It is designed to make you a better person. It is designed to bring about love for your frat or your sorority. And that's what you see. When you see people out in the community right now, my age, older than me, younger than me, they speak about it with pride. I wear these letters with pride. You understand that? These Omegas, they wear their letters with pride still to this day. What was done to Caleb Wilson, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm just letting you know these Divine Nine organizations, the fraternities and sororities are not a gang. They are not designed to beat people down and to kill people and to hurt people. That's not what it's about. That's not at all what it's about. Y'all know me. Y'all have been listening to me for 20 years. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I've never lied to y'all. I'm not going to start now. That's not what it's about. It's a positive thing. You would be hard pressed to find someone on your Facebook feed, on your Facebook friends list, on your timeline, on your IG, who has done more community service than me. Now, I'm saying that to non-Greeks because I can name a lot of people in my organization who have done way more than me over the last 20 years. So if you catch what I'm saying, I've done a lot. You probably don't know anybody that's done more than me. I'm talking about mentorship, feeding the homeless, Adopt a Highway, Meals on Wheels. I could go on all day. You probably don't know someone who's been more active in community service than me, but I know tons of people who are more active than me. So what I'm saying to you, that should give you some context as to how active we are in our communities. In fact, I'll tell you, we hear more about the physical. That's what, when you ask a regular person, ask anybody, they'll say, hey, what do you think about pledging a fraternity or a sorority? The number one thing they're going to tell you is, oh yeah, they get their asses beat. They want to beat your ass. They want to hurt you. That's the first thing they're going to tell you. I guarantee you. That's the impression that people give you. You know what I'm saying? When you mention that word, fraternity. But what if I told you that 90% of what we do is community service, philanthropy, charity. These are things that we do regularly. Even in undergrad, that's what 90%, I'll even say 95% of it. Let me give you some more context. The pledging process, usually for most people again, we don't pledge now. I'm talking about back then, years ago. When I pledged, let's say the average process was about 5 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. Mine was a little longer. But so let's just say 5 weeks. 5 weeks of pledging, 5 weeks of a rigorous, process. That's it. That's the physical. That's 5 weeks, a month. 1 month out of a lifetime. A lifetime. You're a freshman, sophomore in college. Usually I have been doing community service literally nonstop ever since I crossed. I've never stopped. Y'all follow me. If you follow me, you see what I do. I post a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it online. So I'm just telling this to non-Greeks who want to have negative things to say about the process, and I'll move on. But that's a minute piece of the process. 5 weeks out of an entire lifetime. And I'll even say white fraternities and sororities are much different from black fraternities and sororities. A lot of times you ever notice, you may not notice, but I notice a lot, white frats and sororities will be like, yeah, when I was in college, I was in a frat. You ever notice that? They're like, yeah, back in the day, I used to be in a fraternity. I'll be like, this is what grown men will say. They're like, yeah, I used to be in a frat. And I said, I look at it, I don't question because I know what it is. but I didn't used to be in a frat. Black Greeks didn't pledge and then stop being in the frat or the frat. We are still in it. I was just party walking at an event a couple weeks ago. I'm 47 years old. I'll be 48 in December. And I still get it in. I'm still in pretty good shape, so I can still move it. You know what I mean? But, so I'm telling you, this is a lifelong commitment. So all I'm saying to y'all is, don't get caught up in the physical perception of it. Don't get caught up in that. Was it hard? Yeah, it was hard. But it's not at all, you know what I mean? The big picture. You know what I mean? So let's move. I want to address some points that y'all wanted me to talk about. One of the things I got to do is, let me say this about Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson, that was a tragedy. I am not going to sit up here and in any way try to justify what happened to that young man. It was a tragic event. It was despicable. It was something that never should have happened at all. But why did it happen? And I don't know that. So I'm not going to speak on it in detail because I don't know what happened. Because I know how the narrative, a lot of times the narrative is not really what it was. So I don't even want to get too deep into the details of it. I'm just going to say rest in peace to him. I'm going to say prayers and condolences to his family. You know, that is something that is inexcusable. What I will say about pledging, what happened though? From what the news reports, they were pledging, he got punched in the chest, he collapsed, and then this is where the real problem lies, is that they tried to cover it up. It's like, okay, because things happen. I'm not going to act like things don't happen when you're pledging. But they tried to cover it up. It's like you were more worried about saving yourself than you were saving his life. And that's inexcusable. That's inexcusable. Because at a certain point, it's like, forget the frat, forget pledging, forget the process, forget everything. We got to save this man's life. Let's get him to a hospital. If we got to be in trouble, if our chapter has to be suspended, if we got to go to jail, whatever the case is, that is our brother lying on the floor, lying on the ground, lying in the woods, wherever they were at. Let's get this man to a hospital. Let's get him some help. And they didn't do that. And that's despicable. That's outrageous. It's inexcusable. You know, they were more worried about saving their reputations than saving his life. And from what I heard, they changed his clothes. He was in the pledging gear, and they took him out of that and put him in. I don't know if any of that is true, but that's what I heard. I'm just like, wow, to save yourself. So that is inexcusable. Those were those brothers, though. You see what I'm saying? That was not indicative of the organization. That was not an all-encompassing thing about Omega Psi Phi or Kappa Alpha Psi or Phi Beta Sigma Alpha Phi Alpha. Because I'm not going to sit here and lie to y'all. You know what I mean? Like everyone, let me see. Not everyone, but if you were brought in during a certain time period, and I mean pre-2000, even in the 2000s, they were still pledging, but, back then, you pledged. So I'm not going to sit here and act like, things were not done that when they were. But at the end of the day, all of that has to go out of the window when it comes to saving somebody's life. That's just the reality. So there's that. So I'll talk a little bit more about Caleb Wilson. But one of the things we got to understand about, I want to do some history of pledging. A lot of people don't realize that, because when you hear non-Greeks usually speak about non-pledging, or excuse me, when you hear non-Greeks speak about pledging, you hear the negative comments when they don't know that our origins as Black people are in pledging. I'm talking about going back to Africa. I'm talking about ancient, we are descendants of kings and queens. Do some research. And if you're familiar with African history, African ancestry, to be a king, you start out as a boy. You were raised in a village. And in that village, you were taught certain things about the tribe, about your culture. And then when it became time to become a man, you were taken from or taken through a rite of passage ceremony, or excuse me, rite of passage process, which took you into manhood. That ancient rite of passage differed from tribe to tribe. Okay? It differed. It wasn't the same for the Kenyans as it was for the Nigerian tribe, as it was for that tribe. It was different from tribe to tribe. The pledge process is different from frat to frat. But the similarity is the rite of passage process was designed to do three things. And again, this is our ancient history. This is our kings and queens. They all went through the same process. It was designed to break you down and then build you back up mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. That was the origin of pledging. A lot of people don't know this. They say, well, these Greeks, they should be banned. They're doing things that should never happen. Well, it happened. If it didn't happen, you wouldn't be here. Our ancestors from Africa went through the same. Google it. Google ancient African rites of passage process and see what comes up. They were beaten. Many of them are scarred. You ever see Africans who have scars on their faces or throughout their bodies? Those scars are from pledging. They're from the rite of passage seal. You know, the singer, many, just Google, look this stuff up. That they went through that. And once they crossed over from boy to manhood, they were now accepted by the community based on the work that they did throughout that process. They were loved. They were held up. They were now able to do things, have all the rights that the other tribe had, the members of the tribe had. So I'm just telling you this, so it's not a negative. In fact, if you did not go through that, or you did not do a good job in that, you weren't looked at as a man. You were not a man if you did not go through the rite of passage. You were not accepted by your tribe if you did not go through the rite of passage. I'm giving you all some real history. Y'all think that it started with Greeks. It goes way beyond that. I went through a rite of passage. I'm not the frat, but an African rite of passage with my family. It was called the Unyago. Look up Unyago. Unyago. Look it up. Unyago. What is the Unyago? Well, it's me. Some of you guys may remember, be familiar with the Black Humanist Fellowship here in the Philadelphia area. One of the Nethamu Sasa, with the first Black free school in the city of Philadelphia. The group of people, my family, who started and founded that organization, that school, in Philadelphia. They saw a need to take us back to our roots. And they took us away to a farm. It was me, it was my whole family, the people I grew up with. But it was us, it was probably about maybe, let's say 10 of us. And we went through the Unyago ceremony. It was my father took me through this. My mother took me through this. She took a bunch of us through this. To take us from my family is very Afrocentric. If you don't know, I'm named after Dedan Kimathi. Does anyone know who Dedan Kimathi is? Dedan Kimathi is a great freedom fighter. Look him up. Know who I'm named after. Dedan Kimathi. Kimathe. I'm also named after Marcus Garvey. My name is Marcus Dedan Tolbert, for those of you who don't know. And so, if you don't know, you should know who Marcus Garvey. I give you a pass if you don't know who Dedan Kimathi is, but everybody should know who Marcus Garvey is. But so I'm telling you that that's where I come from. So they took me through this Unyago ceremony where we pledged. I want to say we were up there for a couple weeks, maybe. I forget how it was. I was young, but I want to say, let's say 2 weeks. And at the end of that pledging process that built us up mentally, spiritually, emotionally, we went through a ceremony where our entire family came and we presented ourselves to our village, to our community. So I was no longer Dedan the boy. I was Dedan the man. So I went through this process long before I went through a pledging process. So I'm just giving y'all some history so we can get some context. And I'm here to tell y'all that Greek life is not the problem. Pledging is not the problem. Immaturity is the problem. Ignorance is the problem. Wanting to do things that were not done to you and that were not originated with love. See, my family put me through my Unyago process with love. My frat brothers put me through a process with love. Let me say this. So part of the problem is when you have, so let's go back. So let's say I go to school, right? I go to school and I want to be a Greek. I want to pledge. So what do I do? What do I want to join? So how do I know? Well, what I do is I get to know some of the brothers or potential brothers. Phi Beta Sigma, if you want to be a Kappa, you get to know the Kappas. You want to be an Omega, you get to know the Omegas. Oh, I heard good things about the Alphas, so I want to be an Alpha. Whatever the case is, you get to know them. And then you go to an interest meeting, a formal interest meeting. You put on a suit and tie, and you get to know more about the organization. And if they like you, you like them, then you learn about you do your own research. Then you start showing up. Because as you get to know the brothers, you will find they're always into something, always into community service, always into charity, philanthropy. So then you start to get to know, like, all right, this might be for me. I like this. You might even go to the party. You see them, party walking. Oh, wow, okay, I like how they get down. You know what I'm saying? This might be for me. And so if it seems like a good fit, then you do what's called pre-pledging. You do a little, a little process prior to the actual process. And again, the point that I'm making with this is that you start hanging around these people. You start taking road trips with these people. You start doing the work with these people. You like them, they like you. So they say, hey, we want you to go online to start the process of being in our organization. You don't take people online that you don't like. And this may seem elementary, this may seem like common sense, but it's not so common because you ask a random non-Greek, they really think you hate these people. People really think that. I'm telling y'all what I know. I did my first show on this 16 years ago. Now, when I was live, I had people calling into the show asking these questions. But now I'm just talking to y'all. But trust and believe, people don't know. Like, why? Somebody really asked me. Like, so This was a grown adult asking me. So I'm like, yo, why, like, do you think, like, did y'all take him online because you didn't like him just so you could beat his ass? I'm like, what? I'm like, are you serious? Like, yeah, because I heard you. Like, I just can't. They couldn't understand, why would you beat somebody that you loved or that you wanted to actually be a part of your organization? They really think that, some people really believe, like, oh, if you don't like somebody, and I'm not being, well, I am being facetious, but I'm being serious at the same time, because people really think if you don't like somebody, you get them to go online so you can beat their ass and then they can drop. And then you won't get in trouble for beating them up because they won't be able to fight. They won't be able to fight back. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. When you take, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. Y'all not, maybe I'll get in trouble. Somebody says, hey man, you might not want to do this show. You might not want to do this show. You might want to hold off on this show, bro. I said, why? I said, first of all, I've already done this show. I said, secondly, I am giving people information that they need to know. I'm not revealing any secrets. I'm not saying anything that people should not know. But the reason we take people online is because we see something in them that we think would be a good fit for our organization. That's why we take them online. If I don't like you, if I don't think you would be a good fit, I don't care about building you up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I don't want to have nothing to do with you. We take you on because I want you to be my brother. I want you to be my brother. I want you to be able to share a bond that I share with millions of people around the world. I can right now, let me tell you something. I'm going to tell y'all some other things, but the bond that we have in Phi Beta Sigma is so strong. I could be homeless. I could have no money. I could drive out in a car and go to, Minnesota right now. You know all I need? I just need these letters. That's all I need. Yo, bro. Yo, Fred. I'm a little down right now, man. I just drove out here. I don't have any money. I don't have a place to stay, man, but I'm fall 99, bro. Say less. Come on. Come on. I got a house for you. I got some food for you. I got some money for you. I can go to Africa right now. I can go to Germany right now. I can fly to the Bahamas right now. We have chapters all over with these letters on. And just off the strip, they don't know nothing about no Dedan Tolbert, but they know about these letters because of the bond. And it's the same with Alpha. It's the same with Kappa. It's the same with Omega. It's the same with AK. That's the bond. And I'm just saying that's just what it is. Somebody tell me I'm lying. Anyone listening who took that, who pledged, knows what I'm saying. And that's what it's about. I take you online because I want you. First of all, I want to see if you're worthy of it. I want to see if you can earn it. Letters are earned, not given. You got to work for this. And I'm not talking about getting your ass beat. I'm not talking about that. Anyone will tell you the real work starts after you go over. The pledge process, I already told you, is 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Mine happened to be 7 weeks, 6 days, but I'm just, you know what I mean? But the process is 5 weeks. The work is a lifetime. The work is a lifetime. I'm more busy now with the frat than I ever was. I'm in a grad chapter. Y'all see how much we do. We are literally doing community service every single day. Every single day there's something to do. Every weekend we're out. Every single weekend. Interacting with small businesses, feeding the homeless, adopt a highway, mentorship, scholarship. We've given away thousands and thousands of dollars in scholarship money in the last 2 years. I mean, forget over the course of the last, 20 years or so. I'm talking about just in the last 2 years, we've given away thousands of dollars. And that's just my chapter. Nationally, internationally, we've given away millions of dollars through scholarships. But they won't tell you that. The NBC News, they'll tell you about Caleb Wilson, but they won't report Phi Beta Sigma, Alpha Phi Alpha, Omega Psi Phi. They won't report the community service that way. I mean, some will, but it won't get the national attention like a tragedy. So let me continue what I was saying. So if we take you online, it's because we want you to be our brother. That process, again, goes back to ancient culture. So somebody asked, they said, hey, well, why do you have to beat them though, bro? Like, okay, I'm with you. I'm hearing this. I know you're doing this show. I don't really hear nobody talk about this except you. And I get, you know what I'm saying? That's what I like to do. Why do you have to paddle them? Why do you gotta take strokes? Like, why do you have to literally beat their ass with a paddle to call them your brother? My mom asked me this. You know what I mean? Many people have asked me this. Why? Why do you have to do that? I hear everything else, but why do you have to beat them? Now again, let me just go back. Phi Beta Sigma is a non-hazing organization. We don't beat nobody, okay? Let me just put that out there. I'm speaking about back in the day. This is all back in the day, and it's all alleged, you know what I'm saying? But we're going to have a real conversation. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have a real conversation. Why do you have to beat them to call them your brother? The answer to that question is you don't. You don't have to beat somebody to call them your brother. You don't have to hurt someone to have a bond with them. However, if you go through a process, when you go through a process with, let's say, four people, 5 people are on your line, you sleep with these people, you pray with these people, you eat with these people, you do everything with these people, you go to war with these people, you go to battle. When I was pledging, it was hell. It was war, literal war. We're going to war every night. We didn't know what we were going to face. We didn't know what we were going to experience. And in that, you develop a bond, right? You develop, like when you get your ass whooped next to somebody, when you bleed next to somebody, when you cry next to somebody, you are going to develop, you might not even like that person, but you're going to be forever bonded with that person. You are going to be joined with that person in a way that someone who did not go through that experience with you is not going to understand, and they're not going to be able to relate to. Greeks who pledged, they know, if you're listening, some of you, I see some of you right now listening live. Some of y'all pledged, you know what I'm saying. Some of you also listening don't know you have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's fine. Pledging is not for everybody, right? It's not, and that's okay. I have good friends of mine. We debate. They're like, shit, you crazy, bro. My best friends, great friends. Yeah, ain't nobody putting their hands on me. Okay, cool. It's not for you. It's not for you. But other friends of mine who did pledge, we have this bond. It's different. I have the best man at my wedding. You know what I'm saying? My brother, Oshel, another great friend of mine. Non-Greeks. We are super close, probably closer to him than I am with anybody. He didn't pledge. He doesn't know what he might listen and say, I can't relate to that. That's fine. We have our own bond. But what I'm saying to you, when you go through that process with someone, my dad was in the military. My dad fought in Vietnam. My dad actually fought in Vietnam. Like, he was a sergeant, literally went to war, jumped out of an airplane, landed, Viet Cong all around him. There was a time, he didn't talk about it a lot. My mom actually told me this story years later. There was a time when he was trapped in a bunker. Y'all see these movies? My dad, literally trapped, taking fire, like something straight out of a movie. Got his guys right next to him, side by side. Some made it out of that ditch. Others did not. My dad, fortunately, did it. But that bond, he had a bond with those guys. He was living. You talking about people in the trenches? No, my dad was really in the trenches. Not no made up stuff. Like, really in the trenches. That's where that phrase comes from. The bond that he has with those soldiers is unbreakable. You guys understand what I'm saying to you? When you gotta lean on somebody, take that stroke, bow, bow, bow. You know what I'm saying? And he's holding you up. I'm holding him up. Bow, you take one. Bow, you take one. You take one. Bow, getting your ass beat. And I'm not, again, you guys get what I'm saying. You form a bond. You're not going to have, I don't care what you do, you're not going to have that same bond with with somebody else that you're going to have with that person. You might have a bond, but you're not going to have that bond. And that's why the bond of Greeks that Greeks share is so strong and so powerful. And I'm not here to say that it's right. I'm not here to say that it's wrong, but it just is what it is. It's not negative though. It's not. And it's not something you're going to understand if you're not Greek. And that's fine. You don't have to understand. That was at a time when things were different. We don't even do that anymore. I'm just going to keep it up. We don't do that no more. Nobody does. It's over. It's done. Pledging is over with. The show I did was 16 years. The first show, Greek Life in America, Part 1. This is Part 2. That was 16 years ago. It popped up in my memories. Things have changed over the last 20 years. We don't pledge anymore. We don't haze. You want to become a member of a fraternal organization or a sorority? I don't know for sure. I don't know what other people do. I'm not going to speak on what we do. But you're probably going to do something similar to a classroom setting. You're going to bond with your line brothers or line sisters. And that's just going to be what it's going to be. And that's fine. Because you're still going to have an opportunity to do the work long after you got through that process. The process doesn't matter how you came in. And I'll be honest. I'm just going to be perfectly honest, guys. For a long time, I struggled with people wearing my letters. The same letters that I wear, not going through what I went through. I struggled with that. I'm just going to be honest with you. For a long time. And a lot of people did. But I will say, I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel that way anymore. Because, and I'll tell you something. I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to put anybody out there. But I'm going to speak about some of my brothers who do amazing work. Because things are different now. In all organizations. I've seen Kappas who I know did not pledge. I know Alphas who I know did not pledge, who are amazing members of their fraternity or sorority. So I'm just giving y'all some context. This is just my opinion. I don't speak for Phi Beta Sigma. I don't speak for anyone national. This is just my personal opinion. I struggle with that, but I don't struggle anymore because it's not about how you come into the organization. It's about what you do in the organization. And I can name about a bunch of great brothers of mine who work extremely hard. And they do hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of community service every single week. Let me move it on. Let me keep. So, so how have things changed? Like I said, what we have now is what's called the MIP process. And that's a general term for membership intake process. And that's, deltas, you got lines of, 80 girls coming in, 200 girls, women coming in, these huge lines, you see on Instagram and things, these probates. I mean, it's like, come on, you know what I mean? You already, what kind of process could they have gone through? It's only so much you can do with people that. So what we're seeing is what the major change that I've seen is the graduate chapters. So you have undergraduate chapters and then you have graduate chapters. What I've seen, I'm not saying this is the same everywhere, but we're seeing more, I'm seeing less undergraduate pledging, less people coming in through the collegiate chapters and more coming in as adults. And you can tell me what you think, other organizations, but I'm just seeing more of that. So the major difference is now, instead of a 17, 18-year-old immature pledging someone, hazing someone, now, and you have things like Caleb Wilson. You have tragedies like people getting, broken arms, broken legs, going to the hospital, things like that. Instead of that, now you have people, my age, 45, 46, 47, 35. They are the ones in charge of the intake process. So the level of maturity is going to be different. The level of responsibility is different. When I say responsibility, I mean, you got a house, you got a mortgage, you got a 401k, you got kids, you got a wife. I'm not going to jail to make sure you get respect. I'm not doing that. Now, I was never a hazer. That just wasn't ever my thing. But some people were. But I'm just saying, I know people who haze like crazy, not playing. They hazed back in the day. The biggest hazers at 40 or 50 years old. I'm not doing that. I'm not risking my life. I'm not risking my livelihood for that. Hell no. So that's a major difference between then and now, is the age and the responsibility, the maturity, accountability. You get put on blast, your chapter is gone, you're in jail, you're on the news. Who wants to do all that? Who wants to go through that? Not me. Not me. You know what I'm saying? It's not that deep. So I think I believe, and I don't know this for sure, this isn't exclusive to Phi Beta Sigma. I'm just saying my personal opinion is that in the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to do away with Greek life in undergrad. We're already seeing many campuses, many schools just suspend chapters, not even suspending chapters, suspending entire organizations, suspending the entire Greek life program. They're suspending the whole program because it's not worth the liability as a university. The university doesn't even want to even have Greeks. So I believe, and then, like I said, 5 years, 10 years, I believe all intake will be handled on the graduate level. If you want to pledge, if you want to come into an organization, become a member of an organization, You're going to have to reach out. It's going to be an after collegiate thing, after college, and which is fine. You know what I'm saying? We're seeing more and more of that, The problem that I have a lot of times, though, I will say, is when you see graduate chapters, trying to emulate the undergrad process. You know what I'm saying? Let's do away with, if you guys are listening, let's stop that, guys. Let's stop that. We are willing to embrace you for coming in how you came in as a member of the Divine Nine. Okay? That's fine. It's okay to come in however you came in is how you came in. But own it. Don't come in there trying to march in, doing all this stuff at 50 years old. That's not, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not what you do. And I think that is something that, that widens the gap between the acceptance of how things were versus things are now. If you come in and you own it, look, I didn't pledge, but I'm still here. I'm willing to do the work. Cool. Say less. That's it. But don't come in here trying to act like you did something that you didn't. Don't come in at this probate. If y'all know what a probate is like a coming out show where you have the whole crowd come and watch you do your presentation. Do your presentation, that's fine. But don't try to act like you did things that you did not do. That makes people like myself who actually pledged. I may have pledged harder than anybody. I don't know. I'm just saying, and there are a lot of people who pledge hard, but I just know what I went through. And it would be hard to imagine, like, whatever you think Greeks do, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but whatever you think pledging was, picture the worst thing you could think of, the worst thing people could go through, everything you imagined it might be, and then times that by 10, and that's what I went through. I'm just saying, so my point is, when you have people like me who went through certain things, it's disrespectful to act like you did those things when you didn't. It's disrespectful. You know what I mean? So, again, but there's nothing wrong. I want to be clear about this. I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with not pledging, because we don't pledge now anymore anyway. There is no more pledge. It's over with. We are a non-hazing organization. So however you come in is fine. Just do the work and own the work. Own the community service. Own the brotherhood, the sisterhood. That's all you have to do. And if you are okay with that, then I'm okay with you. And I found that people will think usually what I'm telling you is how most old school Greeks think. It's crazy. Why I think of myself as old school, because it seems like it was just yesterday, but that's the problem. So let me tell you something else. When I was in school, without naming any, I don't want to get into any, specific organizations, but there was an organization on campus where there were these young women who went online, right? They went on, I think it was maybe, let's say 12 of them. And it was 12 young women who went online. I was already a Sigma. And the line, they got discovered that they were pledging. These girls were known for pledging. They were all pledging. The line got shut down. And half of them they were all given the opportunity to continue pledging underground. And half of them continued pledging, and half of them decided that they were just not going to pledge. They were all made sorors of that organization. I'm not going to say the organization's name, but if you know, you know. But half of them continued pledging, half of them just went on and continued with the process, and they just got their letters without pledging. Half of them were respected on campus. They came out, they did a real probate, and they got love from the campus. It was, I think, 6 or so of them, or I forget how many it was, but let's say it was 6. The other half were ostracized. They were pariahs of the campus. They got no respect at all. Not from Greeks, not from nobody. You know what I'm saying? Because why? They did the work, but they did not complete the process. So they were known as skaters. Can we, before I go any further, and I'm only doing this because today's show, I just want to, like, there's not a lot of this. Y'all know this. A lot, you don't hear a lot about this. So just like I did 16 years ago, I want to just give y'all knowledge that you probably won't get anywhere else without revealing any secrets, anything, but just some informational stuff. What is a skater? What does that term even mean? Because I want to clarify that term. That term has become kind of taboo, especially in today's climate. But what is a skater? Has anyone ever heard that term, skater? So the term skater, I'll tell you my definition of what a skater was. It was, and this was a very important piece of it I think a lot of people miss. It's not just that you didn't pledge. Not pledging does not make you a skater. Okay? It's not about just not pledging or not going through a process. But skating is the definition of that would be having the opportunity to pledge, having the availability of a process to you, but you choosing an alternate route. You chose not to pledge. So I want to be clear about this. There is no choice now, right? There is no choice. So the term skater is null and void. There is no more skaters. So let me just put that out there. There's no skating. That term is now obsolete. There's no such thing as a skater anymore. Why? Because there's no option. Back in the day, there was an option. You had a choice. You want to go online. You want to pledge. You want to do what you got to do. Or you can take the easy route, call national headquarters. I want to be a AKA. I want to be a Kappa. I want to be a whatever. What do I got to do? They tell you to sign on the paperwork, send us a money order. Boom, you're in the organization. That's called skating. You had a choice. Now there is no choice. So there's no more skaters. You just come in. You come in how you come in. If I go to you, I asked a guy, I'll tell you something. I'm not going to name his name. I'm not even going to say anything about him. But if he's listening, he knows who he is. I said, and this was years ago. I said, yo, bro. He was at an interview. And I said, yo, man, you want these letters? I said, you want these letters, right? He said, yes. I said, so what are you willing to do for these letters? All right. He said, whatever I need to do. I said, I'm sure you've heard stories of what pledging is and what it's about and what you might have to do, what this process might be like. I said, without getting into too much detail, are you cool with that? You cool with getting your ass? I didn't say that, getting your ass beat, but I'm just letting him know, like, if that's the process, would you be okay with that? He said, yes. I said, you're sure? He said, he said, I wanted this my whole life. And so if that's what I need to do to become a member of this organization, then that's what it is. I said, say less. This fast forward years later, that young man is one of the, remember I told you there are tons of people, there's a few people that I can name that have done just as much, if not work in the fraternity as myself and still doing it to this day. He's one of those people. He's one of those people. So I'm just, but here's the caveat to that. he didn't get his ass beat. I asked him. I said, you willing to get your ass beat for these letters? He said, yes. He was willing to do whatever needed to be done. He didn't want to take the easy route, but he took the route that was given to him. And now he is an amazing brother, an extremely hard worker, well respected. And that's just what it is. So what's the moral of this story, guys? I'm not going to talk you guys' ear off because I could talk about Greek life. I got a lifetime of stories. But I wanted to do this show to let you know that it's not all about what you think it's about. Don't let the tragic death of Caleb Wilson, make you think that everything is bad. Make you think that we are these weird guys who like beating people up and taking advantage of it. It's not that. You think of every major black leader that you can think of. Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King, George Washington Carver. I mean, the list is endless. You know what I mean? The list is, they are most likely a part of a Greek organization and can tell you the same stories that I'm telling you right now. I wanted to do this show 16 years ago, and so I did. And I wanted to do it fast forward all these years later, just to answer questions, dispel myths and rumors, and misconceptions, and help you guys see the reality. We do the work. We do the work. 1 second. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere, guys. I want to show y'all something. I want to show y'all. You see this? This is an award that was given to me in 2018 in recognition and appreciation of your commitment to the arts. This was given to me by the National Pan-Hellenic Council of Pennsylvania Distinguished Service Award for Phi Beta Sigma. My chapter selected me to receive the Distinguished Service Award for that year because of my work over the last several years in the chapter. So I'm just giving y'all some context. It's not all about partying. It's not all about having sex with women. It's not about party walks. It's not about beating people's ass. It's about service. It's about that award right there. And even if you don't get any awards, it's still about the work. Like I told y'all, 95% of Greek life is community service. Somebody tell me I'm lying. I am working every single day. Today's Thursday. We got an event tomorrow. Y'all just saw I founded a mentorship program in my kids' school. I'm a charter member of the Dads on Duty. We just had the Sixers come in and speak to the kids last week. Has nothing to do with the frat whatsoever. We got on yellow hoodies every day. Our colors are blue and white. But you see service is just something that I do. Period. Oh, it was a story that real quick. I want to go. I lost my train of thought. I went off on a tangent. Remember the story I was just telling you about the girls in school? The 2 lines? It was a point behind that story. Real quick. So half of the girls got respect and half of the girls didn't. And this will tie everything together, a nice shiny bow for you. So on campus, the 6 girls, they're doing things, they're party walking and doing all this stuff, they're doing the community service. But then the other girls, they were ostracized. And nobody was messing with them. None of the Greeks were messing with them. Nobody wanted to support them. Nobody wanted to give them any type of support whatsoever. And I was cool with one of them. She said, yo, Dedan, we've always been cool. I know I went about things, the way we did, and a lot of people aren't feeling that. But I mean, we want to still do the work. There's a program that we want to do in our community up there, and she said, "Can you help?" I said, "You're damn right, I'll help you." I said, "What do you need from me?" And so we talked about it, and I helped them. And people asked me, when they showed up at this program that they wanted to do, and they saw me there, people came up to me. They said, "Yo, bro, what's up with this? Why you messing with the skaters?" I said, "Look, man," I said, I don't do the politics. I personally don't agree with how they came in. I did not agree with it at that time, and I still don't agree with it. But I am not going to say no to someone asking for help to help the community. You see what I'm saying? That would not sit right with me. If you want to do something positive in the community, I'm going to help you. Period. I don't care what organization you are. I don't care how you came into an organization. If you're about the service, then that's all that matters. You know what I'm saying? And so I helped them. And guess what? When people who know how I pledge, no one will ever question anything about how I came into the organization. But so they knew, okay, you're messing with them on that level, then now we can support them. You see how that works? And so I'm just saying that, let that be a lesson. Don't let the negativity, I don't care if it's political negativity, I don't care if it's, when I say political, I mean politics involved with Greek life. You know how that goes. Whether it's on the undergrad or the graduate level, there's going to be politics involved. I've never been a political guy. I don't need to be president of Phi Beta Sigma. I don't need to be international, nothing. You know what I'm saying? I am a lifetime member. I just submitted my lifetime membership paperwork. You know what I mean? So God willing, everything will go through smoothly. But I've been financial in my organization for the last 11 years. So service is what I do. But I'm saying I just want to do the work. I don't need the recognition. It's nice that I got the award, but I don't need that. And I'm saying, if you are in the organization, don't get caught up in the politics. If you're outside of the organization, don't get caught up in the, Caleb Wilson. And again, rest in peace to Caleb Wilson. Rest in peace. But don't let that define how you view Greeks. I've seen some things that I don't agree with. Listen to Ryan Clark, the Kappa dude from the Pivot podcast. Where I listen to his take on it. I felt like, although he didn't necessarily say this, but I felt like he was condemning Greek life as opposed to those individuals. Greek life is not the problem. Guess what? Pledging is not the problem. One last thing, and I'm going to get up out of here. Pledging is not the problem. Y'all want to know what the problem is? Because again, if you just tuned in, some of y'all be on that color people time. You missed my whole story on the origin of Greek life. The African origin of it. Of pledging, the rite of passage. So that's not the problem. Hazing is the problem. So you might ask, well, what's the difference between pledging and hazing? What's the difference? Well, right now, there is no difference, right? There is no difference now, but because we don't do none of it now. We don't pledge, we don't haze, we don't do nothing. But back in the day when people were actually pledging, the difference was the intent. The intent, I'm going to just give you a brief explanation. If you wanted to pledge, I'm going to take you through a process because I love you. I want you to be my brother. I want to have this bond with you. So we're going to have you show out to the campus. We're going to have you do community service. We're going to have you clean up. We're going to have you do calisthenics. We're going to have you do exercise. We're going to have you study. Part of my process is going to the library and studying. You know what I'm saying? It's everything. It's, you know what I'm saying? That's pledging. It's designed. I can't focus on this enough. It's designed to build you up. Hazing is none of that. Hazing is not done with a purpose. There's nothing positive about hazing. There's positivity in pledging. Hazing is, I just want to whoop your ass. Let me give you an example. So, and I've seen this. I had it done to me. I've seen it happen. But hazing is this. Just to give you an example. Let's say you're on a road trip. Say, me and some frat, we want to go up to. No, we're not gonna use me. We're gonna say some Kappas, right? We're gonna say some Kappas. I'm just gonna use them as an example. Some Kappas want to go up to Penn State, right? And they want to fellowship with the brothers up at Penn State. And the Kappas have a line. The Kappas at Penn State have a line on. And this is all hypothetical. They have a line on. So I want to go up there. I want to smoke. I want to drink. I want to have a good time. So I am going to get with the Kappas, and we just going to wreck their boys. I got the paddle in the trunk. And we just gonna whoop their asses. We're gonna whoop them. We're not gonna teach them no information. We're not gonna teach them brotherhood. They're not gonna learn about me. I'm not gonna learn about them. I'm never gonna see them again. I'm never gonna talk to them. But I'm going there with the sole purpose to whoop their asses. Why? Because it's fun. It's fun. Now I'm just not really. I'm just saying hypothetically. That's why they're doing it. But for a lot of people, hazing is fun. Get your ass in the cut, number 3. Get your ass in the cut. Take this. What? What's my name? What? You know what I'm saying? That's fun to people. And that, guys, is what is the problem. It's when hazing is mixed into the pledge process in a way that it becomes dangerous. And as we saw with Caleb Wilson, life-threatening. You should, before you take somebody online, you should, one, have someone who has your back. The dean of that line needs to let everybody know this is how this set is going to go. That night, that's called a set. That little session, it's called a set. This set is going to go this way. You're not going to do anything to these boys that is outside of what I want to happen. This guy has a bad knee. This guy has a heart problem. This guy has a brain aneurysm. This guy, he's fat, so he really can't move too well. So this is what we're going to do. And so when you know that stuff going into it, it's like you can control the outcome. You see what I'm saying? Somebody failed Caleb Wilson. Somebody should have told him or told them, hey, I don't know if he had a pre-existing heart condition or not, but somebody should have stepped in and said, yo, don't hit him in the chest. Don't do that. What's wrong with you? Get your ass out of here. Don't come back. Somebody within the frat failed Caleb Wilson. Am I gonna sit here and act like? See, I'm gonna end it, but I want to be honest with y'all. Y'all know me. I keep it real. Am I gonna act like I was never punched in the chest? I'm not gonna act like that because I was. I'm not gonna say by who. We're not doing that snitching. You know what I mean? But I was punched in the chest. I could be Caleb Wilson. You know what I'm saying? Just like that. Nobody knew. I mean, you never know what something could happen, how a punch could affect somebody. But I'm just telling you, that could have been me. That be punched in the chest and a bunch of other stuff. But it was done, at least in my case, out of love. I don't know, and I'm not going to act like it's always not that. Caleb Wilson could have been, it just could have gone wrong. Maybe they did love him. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm just telling y'all, it's very, very complicated. You know, there's no one size fits all. Does pledging, is the line between pledging and hazing, is it often blurred? 100%. 100%. But I'm just letting y'all know, overall, I don't speak negatively about my pledge experience. The people I talk to every day in the frat, they don't speak negatively about their experience. Most Greeks that I've ever met speak extremely positively about their pledging experience, as hard as it may have been, but their overall experience with Greek life. Is it for everybody? No. Was Caleb Wilson a very unfortunate tragedy? Absolutely. But does that diminish the effect, the positive effect that fraternities and sororities have had around the world? Not at all. It does not diminish it whatsoever. Phi Beta Sigma is a great organization. Kappa Alpha Psi is a great organization. Omega Psi Phi is a great historic organization. Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Alpha Phi Alpha, Iota Phi Theta. These are great organizations, extremely beneficial to our community, who have given Zeta Phi Beta. I'd be in big trouble if I forgot Zeta Phi Beta. I'd be in big trouble. You know what I mean? Zeta Phi Beta. We are an extremely important piece of black culture. And don't let the media or anyone try to make you think that we are in any way negative and should be canceled or should be disbanded, because we just shouldn't. I just showed you an award that I personally have gotten for distinguished service, and that plenty of other people got those same awards from service. You take away the service that we give to this community, you think the black community is bad now? We try to remove Greek life from it and see what happens. So I want to thank y'all for listening, man. I'm gonna wrap it up. Like I said, this is part 2. The first time I did this was 16 years ago. You know, and if you notice, I haven't really talked about Greek life over the last decade, but I thought that now would be a good time to revisit it. So, guys, I'm asking you, subscribe over at DaDonTolbertShow.com. That's my Patreon. Add yourselves to the Friends of the Daedon Tolbert Show group, where we have great discussions and conversations every day. And I'll see y'all next time. Oh, real quick. My next live show, guys, my next live broadcast, I'm probably going to be early next week. I'm going to be talking about, I got a question. It's entitled, "He'll have sex with me, but he won't commit to me." You don't want to miss that show. He will have sex with me, but he will not commit to me. And I'm going to talk about the reasons why, as well as answering the question of, are black men intimidated by successful black women? There's a big debate about that, so you don't want to miss that show. I'll see y'all next time.